A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I want A+ English because it's so much fun. English education for you and everyone, so come along. Learn some grammar, learn a phrase, learn something new every day. Learn the A+ way. Hey, it's time to start the show. Are you ready? Good, 'cause here we go. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I want A+ English.
Hi everyone and welcome back to A+ English. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
And today we're on the second part of our article about pop art and the history of pop art. We've learned it got started in the US and the UK. We've learned it used influences from comic books and music and advertisements. And it showed things that are in daily life with bright colors and stuff like that. But before we go on to talk more about pop art, let's look at today's warm-up question. Who's a famous Taiwanese artist? What do you know about them?
There's one called Li Shiqiao. Have you ever heard of him before?
I don't think so. What kind of stuff does he do?
So he also used bright colors in his paintings. And he mainly painted, I guess, landscapes and people.
Yeah, I mean,
daily lives.
I imagine if you were from Taiwan and with so much beautiful countryside out there, a lot of people are going to do landscape pictures and pictures of sort of maybe the Taiwan they grew up in compared to the modern Taiwan of today. But let's get on with part 2 of our pop art article. Let's check it out.
The history of pop art. Warm-up question. Who's a famous Taiwanese artist? What do you know about them?
English artist Richard Hamilton was the father of pop art. In 1956, he made a collage of a living room from magazine pictures. It showed the idea of consumer culture after World War II. In the US, 2 pop artists were Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. Warhol made pictures of consumer products like Campbell's soup cans. Warhol's pictures also repeated actress Marilyn Monroe's face many times in bright colors. Comic book panels influenced Lichtenstein's work. He painted the colored dots by hand. In real comic books, machines reproduce these. Ideas and images from pop art still influence advertisements, art, and product design. It's an important part of modern culture.
So with day 2, we're going to start by exploring one of the artists who really helped create pop art. We see English artist Richard Hamilton was the father of pop art.
好，我们今天介绍的是普普艺术之父Richard Hamilton.
Right. And we learn in 1956 he made a collage of a living room from magazine pictures. And that was the one Elsie and I were discussing in yesterday's review time.
Oh, so we were looking at a collage.
Yes.
Can we say collage?
We can.
Okay, 两个发音都可以，代表的是美术拼贴。
Yeah, this is a picture made of lots of other pictures being put together. You can cut them out of photos of magazines, or you could just cut out colorful materials and paper and then arrange them, stick them on another piece of paper to make something new. You could say, I made a collage from all our summer vacation pictures. Just sort of mix them all together.
没错，那再来呢，我们还看到一个字啊，是 magazine， 什么意思呢？我们来看一下吧。Magazine 代表的是杂志，那你到书店里面去啊，可以看到不同的杂志，像是 fashion magazines 流行杂志、travel magazines 旅游杂志、 business magazines 商业杂志，还有像是你们在读的 AMC 所出版的 English learning magazines 学英文的杂志。那单字例句给的是I read a few magazines when I was waiting in the dentist's office. 我在等着看牙医的时候看了几本杂志。
So I could say, for example, I used to buy a magazine for my hobby, and it told people about new games, new rules for those games, and other things about buying and collecting kind of little figures and models.
那回到课文，我们说到从杂志的图片当中它拼贴出一个客厅 a living room.
Yeah, he cut out all these bits of the vacuum cleaner we mentioned, and the people, the piano, the stereo, the muscular, handsome people, and so on, and put them all together. And why? Well, we kind of talked a little bit about this yesterday in our review time. Why the article says it showed the idea of consumer culture after World War II.OK,
所以那个展现的是二战之后出现的什么东西呢？我们先来看一下 consumer 这个字。Consumer 这个名词代表的是消费者。那消费品也是消费大众常去买的商品，我们叫它们 consumer products。那如果是消费的需求 consumer demand， 消费的支出 consumer spending。那再来还有店家老板要在意的是消费者的权益跟意见，也就是 consumer rights or advice。那单字例句给的是As a consumer, it's smart to check something carefully before you buy it. 身为一个消费者，在买一个东西之前，你要先仔细的确认过，才是聪明的。
So we could say many consumers didn't think the company's new phone was different enough. Like this one's just the same as the old one. Why should we buy it? So consumer culture is all about things like what do people want? What are people buying? And it's showing this idea that like, wow, there's all this new stuff in the stores. Loads more people have more money than before. This is what people want to buy. And this picture kind of represents the things that people might want, people are being told that they want, and what people do with their money. That is their consumer culture. Okay, so that's what was going on in the UK with this guy Hamilton making the art. What about in the US, which kind of caught on a bit later, as we saw in day one? The article says, in the US, two pop artists were one that you mentioned yesterday, Andy Warhol, and Roy Lichtenstein, or Lichtenstein. I'm not sure how he would pronounce the name.
所以这边讲到的是来自美国的两位普普艺术大师。
So let's find out what Warhol did in his pop art. The article says, Warhol made pictures of consumer products like Campbell's soup cans. It's a very famous one.
Yeah, 金宝汤罐. We can see that painting everywhere.
Right, it's pretty common, okay? Here's another one of his famous pictures. And this goes to the idea of pop art being brightly colored and easy to make and reproduce. The article says, Warhol's pictures also repeated actress Marilyn Monroe's face many times in bright colors.
I've seen that one too. Many times 代表的是许多次，所以 Andy Warhol 还有一幅作品就是将玛丽莲梦露的脸用不同的鲜明颜色呈现。
Yeah, they're like bright pink and green and the different backgrounds and her face is different colors and that kind of thing.
没错，那我们这边还看到一个动词是 repeated， 我们先来学一下它的用法吧。Repeat 这个动词呢，代表的是使重复。那当我们在字首看到 re 出现的时候，有再一次的意思，比如说 replay 再次播放，或者是呢 reuse 再次使用，还有像是 recycle 回收，因为我们还要再利用。那我们的单字例句给的是The pattern of flowers repeats all over Linda's dress. Linda 洋装上面的花朵图案重复出现。
We could also say, in this song, the singer repeats the same line several times at the end of each verse. Okay, so let's look, that's Warhol. Let's look at the other artist. We see in the article, it says, comic book panels influenced Lichtenstein's work.
那对这一位艺术家来说呢，漫画书的漫画窗格对他的影响很深。那个 panel 代表就是一格一格的漫画。
Right, it's basically a box where there's something happening. Could be in this panel we see two characters talking, or in this panel they're fighting. This panel's the size of a whole page, or this one's very small and then it cuts to another panel, that kind of thing. So we also then read, he painted the colored dots by hand. So these pictures were made up of just lots of dots that then looked like a full color.
所以 by hand 我们都看到手这个字了，代表是用手工制作的。那我们先进到 Magic Box 听讲师讲解 by hand 的用法。
Magic Box
Hello， 大家好，我是 Casey。刚才在课文里面我们看到了一个特别的片语 by hand。那 hand 我们知道是手的意思嘛？那 by 这个介系词它的意思其实有非常多，但是在这边我们使用的是借由什么什么或者用什么什么这样的意思哦。所以呢，放在一起 by hand 这个片语呢，其实就有手工的或是手做的这样的意思哦。那我们注意一下哦，这边的 hand 它是不会使用复数型的，是不会加 s 的哦。那我们来看看 by hand 用个在句子里面看看。如果我说这个盘子呢，它是手工制作的，那在英文里面我们就可以说 This plate was made by hand。这个 by hand 的介系词片语呢，我们其实也可以用 handmade 这个复合形容词来表示哦。意思呢就是手工制作的这样的意思。那刚才的句子里面呢，其实我用了这个被动语态的用法哦，这个 be made 后面加上不同的介系词，可以表示不同的意义。像是呢，这张桌子是木头制成的，那我就可以说 This table was made of wood。那 be made of 或是 be made from 都是很常搭配使用的片语哦。另外呢，如果我想要说用什么方式来完成某件事情，其实我也可以用这个片语，就是 in a 什么什么 way 这样的句型来说。像是我爸都会用好笑的方式跟我说话 ，My dad talked to me in a funny way， 中间放上形容词来修饰 way 哦。或是呢，我们也可以单纯以一个字这个介系词 with 来表示是用什么工具或是什么技术来完成某一件事情。比方说呢 I stuck the two pieces of paper together with glue。我用胶水把两张纸粘在一起。或是呢，比较抽象一点的意思 Please carry the glasses with care。请小心的拿这些玻璃杯。好啦，那以上的用法都可以指用什么方式啊，或是工具来完成某件事情。希望大家都有学起来咯。
So we read in the article that Liechtenstein did the dots by hand, but in real comic books, machines reproduced these. They would just print whole pages as one.
所以在漫画书里面呢，它是机器完成的，不是 by hand， 不是用手工绘成的。
Right. Okay, so we've talked about a couple of the famous and important artists of that movement. Let's talk about how pop art still kind of influences and affects us today. The article says, ideas and images from pop art still influence advertisements, art, and product design.
Ideas and images. Idea 是他们的点子想法，那 image 指的是影像图像。
Yeah, it's like a picture. That's the look of something. We could say the movie company used images from the film on its posters.
OK， 那再来呢，我们还有一个单词要学哦，这个单词是 design。我们先来看一下吧。Design 在这边当名词用哦，代表是设计。那它的发音要小心，中间 s 的声音是 z。Design。So do you like the design of this table? 你喜欢这张桌子的设计吗？好，你可以这么说。那再来啊 ，design 当然也可以当作动词使用咯，像是呢 ，The program is designed to provide young people with more job opportunities， 代表这个计划是要提供年轻人更多的工作机会。那再来，我们 design 字尾加上 er 就变成 designer 设计师，像是有 fashion designer 时装设计师，或者是 interior designer 室内设计师。那单字例句给的是 The design of the new bag has wheels. This makes it easy to pull or push. 这个新包包的设计包含轮子，让它能够拖拉。
Another example is the design of phones keeps changing. For a time, they kept getting bigger. Then they got smaller again. So yes, pop art still has its sort of what it did is still being used. People are still thinking about it, using the ideas, and that's why we say it's an important part of modern culture.
没错，所以呢，我们文章最后说到，普普艺术啊是当代文化重要的部分，里面都有很多的 elements， 有很多的元素，都是来自现代。
Right, and people are still thinking about it in the same way as they it's now an art movement, like high art or the different kinds of art from different times. Now we've got pop art, which, like other different art movements, is still influencing what people do, the way they do it. We see things with bright colors sometimes, like this movie poster has a pop art style to get people's attention, that kind of thing. So that is the end of today's article. So let's go to our review time activity.
Review time.
So over the last couple of days, we've looked at 8 different word power words. So what Elsie and I will now do is challenge each other by giving each other the definitions of these words, and can we remember which word power word they should belong to?
Okay.
For example, if I said to Elsie, this is kind of like a book, kind of like a newspaper, it has lots of pictures and different articles and things like that in it, and it's usually about a single subject.
像书，像报纸 magazine.
Indeed, it is a magazine.
Okay. Oh, so it's my turn
Your
now,
turn
right?
to challenge me.
Do I tell you about the
You give me
parts
the
of speech?
definition. No, you don't need to give me the part of
Okay,
speech.
so this is to say no, to refuse, to, yeah.
Okay, refuse, say no, tell them, go away, I don't like this idea,
Right.
I am rejecting it.
Yes, reject, 拒绝.
All right, here's another one. And this means to do something again, and again, and again,
again
and
and
again, and again.
Okay, repeat.
Yes, indeed, that is
Right.
to repeat it.
Okay, and this one means the people that buy things.
Buy things. So it's a bit like customer, but it's not quite a customer. We'd say customer of a shop, but if we're talking about in general, people buying stuff,
Yes.
they are consumers. They consume things.
消费者.
Okay, this word means to have an effect on something, to kind of change the way it goes, to maybe have a sort of...
influence.
Yes, an influence. It's hard to not say the word.
Okay, so influence, 影响.
Okay, we got a few more.
And this one, you can see it everywhere.
Everywhere.
On television, in magazines, in newspapers.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does it do in those things?
It's selling stuff.
Selling stuff. Okay.
To make people buy the product.
So it's an advertisement or advertisement.
广告.
Okay, now this is actually a gerund, so it's like a verb noun.
Okay.
And it's the process of making things, but not just one thing, lots of things, lots of exactly the same things in a big factory.
大量的制造，我们在讲的是制造业 manufacturing.
Okay, we got one more left, so
One more, which one is left?
it is the way that something looks and also kind of the way that something works.
Oh, design.
It is that thing's design. Okay, well, that's all the time we have. We've checked out all our word power words. We hope you can remember them just as well as we can. Join us again next time, but for A+ English, I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
The history of pop art. Warm-up question. Who's a famous Taiwanese artist? What do you know about them?
English artist Richard Hamilton was the father of pop art. In 1956, he made a collage of a living room from magazine pictures. It showed the idea of consumer culture after World War II. In the US, 2 pop artists were Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. Warhol made pictures of consumer products like Campbell's soup cans. Warhol's pictures also repeated actress Marilyn Monroe's face many times in bright colors. Comic book panels influenced Lichtenstein's work. He painted the colored dots by hand. In real comic books, machines reproduce these. Ideas and images from pop art still influence advertisements, art, and product design. It's an important part of modern culture. Word power.
Magazine. Magazine. I read a few magazines when I was waiting in the dentist's office. I read a few magazines when I was waiting in the dentist's office. Consumer. Consumer. As a consumer, it's smart to check something carefully before you buy it. As a consumer, it's smart to check something carefully before you buy it. Repeat. Repeat. The pattern of flowers repeats all over Linda's dress. The pattern of flowers repeats all over Linda's dress. Design. Design. The design of the new bag has wheels. This makes it easy to pull or push. The design of the new bag has wheels. This makes it easy to pull or push.
认识字汇
Collage. Collage. Panel. Panel. Image. Image.